Hey guys, Lars here. So, Godzilla vs. Kong came out a little bit ago. The general consensus seems to be that it delivered very well on its marketed premise. We got to see these two giant titans go head to head, these two legends of cinema, and it was quite the spectacle that lots of people enjoyed. However, it also highlighted one of the most pervasive problems within the MonsterVerse franchise, that of very weak human characters. In fact, it's gotten to the point where some people are just making lighthearted jokes about how it's the one thing that these movies keep falling flat on. And you could make the legitimate point that that's not the purpose of these MonsterVerse movies, that people don't go to these movies for the sake of experiencing well-developed characters. But regardless of what you personally go to these movies hoping to take away, we can all probably agree that strong human characters would be an added bonus. And we can safely make this assumption because there are plenty of other well-renowned monster, thriller, action movies that are made more memorable by their well-developed characters. This is something that has been done before. Two prominent examples of this are Jurassic Park and Aliens, and I will be using these two films as inspiration for a potential solution to the monster versus human character problem, if you think it's a problem worth solving at all, but there are still important lessons here to learn for any potential film writer or story writer. So if you think about it, Jurassic Park's premise of dinosaurs chasing people sounds like the recipe for a pretty dumb horror B-movie. But of course, as we all know, Jurassic Park is anything but that. It is one of the most beloved and well-regarded films in movie history. All fans of the franchise will fondly remember Dr. Alan Grant. He is a passionate academic. He loves what he does, despite being a little grouchy at times. And his initial reaction of wonder towards seeing the dinosaurs for the first time helps add emotional weight, which then supplements a pretty shallow basic premise. I mean, it's dinosaurs. They look realistic, but having him react in an emotional, powerful way adds some weight that makes us a bit more invested in what it would be kind of a simple premise. We have Malcolm, who is Malcolm. He's basically a meme. He's funny, he's weird, and a tad philosophical at times. There's the kids, a little bit annoying, but we care about them more as Dr. Grant gets closer to them. And then there's John Hammond. He carries the same passion as Grant, but his childlike dream of seeing dinosaurs in real life has actually been fully realized, and we get kind of a more blissful, fantastical state of mind from him. The point is that the story of Jurassic Park doesn't just focus on the marketed premise of real-looking dinosaurs chasing people. It's a story about the people who are going through that experience. There are even some full character arcs. When Dr. Grant goes from being a grumpy kid hater to a father-like figure that actively fights to protect the kids, we feel that. When John Hammond sees his idyllic dream crumble before him, we feel that. And the movie ends on a very impactful and satisfying final note. And that is helped built up to by the character development. So in Alien, the character development arguably takes an extra step beyond that of Jurassic Park. Similar to Jurassic Park, Alien takes the time to explore the nuances of most of its characters in the beginning. Within the first 56 minutes of this 2-hour movie, it's pretty much all build-up, which includes humanizing the characters through their silly banter and their individual quirks. But most significantly, think of this movie's iconography. When anybody thinks of the Alien movie or the Alien franchise, there are two things that come to mind: the xenomorph itself and Sigourney Weaver as Ripley. One of the iconic symbols of this franchise is its main character. Everyone who knows about this movie recognizes Ripley as a badass action hero. The whole final sequence of the movie feels so personal and epic because it's not just about a monster. It is about a person fighting that monster, a person that we know and care about and who is clearly facing what has been previously established as overwhelming odds. which makes her final victory that much more powerful. The premise of an alien monster chasing people through a spaceship is quite shallow just as a premise alone. It's not a story, it's not a movie. It's just a premise, it's an idea, nothing more. But with character development like that of Ripley and the crew, along with a story that focuses on those characters going up against an existential threat, we get a much deeper experience that makes the action's impact much more resonating. Like Jurassic Park, the actual story isn't just the premise, but it is the characters facing an ordeal. It's about their struggle. It's about Ripley being a survivor and that haunting feeling we're left off with at the very end. So with the basic premise of a giant lizard monster smashing through a city, there are admittedly a lot of character storylines that you could explore. And it wouldn't do much good for me to recommend or go depth into any particular one just because there's so many. It really would be up to the imagination of the writer. What I will do, though, is pose some ideas that one should consider when coming up with character storylines for a movie or story like this. First is the character's initial condition. This can be their emotions, their place in life, their ideas, their relationships, their physical location, whatever. What is important is that you establish what state they begin in. And once the conflict is incited, in this case a giant monster smashing through cities, you need to consider how the character or characters will react to that situation, both in their emotions and in their actions. Or maybe the two feed back on each other. Do they make mistakes? Do they make sacrifices? Do they try to escape or do they fight back? Do they affect the situation as much as it affects them, or are they passive to a massive force of nature? And then last of all, you need to consider what the character's final state will be. Is it relief after having survived a great trauma? Is it hopelessness, triumph, sadness, victory? Have they grown closer to someone after sharing a mutual trauma? There's lots of possibilities. As I said, these ideas are not very in-depth. They are pretty basic and general. But having mentioned them and shown them in action in other films that are in the same vein as the MonsterVerse franchise, it hopefully made it apparent to you as a writer what you should be thinking about if you want your massive monster thriller to be carried by well-developed characters. Because as we've seen, it can pay off well. So, what do you think? If you're going to see a massive Monster Bash film, are you expecting a deep story with well-developed characters? Would you find enjoyment in it if it was given to you in this experience? Let me know in the comments below. As an aspiring writer myself, I'm always wondering what people are seeking in a good story. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.